Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Ya 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 lai, lai, ya lai, lai. Ya lai, 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 ya lai, lai. Ya lai, 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 lai. Ya lai, lai, ya lai, lai. Ya lai, 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 lai. Ya lai, 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 lai. Ya 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 lai, 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 lai, ya lai, lai. Ya lai, 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 ya lai, lai. Ya lai, 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 lai. Ya lai, lai, ya lai, lai. Ya lai, 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 lai. Ya lai, 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 lai. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Ilu Hotianu Mitzrayim, Hotianu Mitzrayim, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu natalanu et ha-Shabbat natalanu et ha-Shabbat Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu natalanu et ha-Torah natalanu et ha-Torah Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
As we just sang Shabbat Shalom and a Chag Pesach Sameach, or as some of us were saying earlier, a Zisen Pesach, if you prefer the Yiddish. But however you say it, hope it has been a lovely and joyous and sweet holiday for you thus far. And it is our pleasure to be here celebrating both Shabbat and Passover this evening. So we will dive right in to our service. You can follow along with our next song, Lechu Neranana, in your service handout.
Lechu Neranana, Yai, lai, 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 Ladonai, lai, 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 Naria, lai, 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 Litzur Yishenu, lai, 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 lai. let us sing unto God, the maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation from mountain to sea hear our song. Lechu neranena, lai 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 lai, l'Adonai, lai 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 lai, Nariah, lai 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 lai, Letzur Yishenu, lai 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 lai. For all of the wonders and all of God's might, we rejoice. So now let us listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. Lechu neranena, lai 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 lai, l'Adonai, lai 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 lai, Nariah, lai 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 lai, Letzur Yishenu, lai 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 lai.
Page 9. We read alternating paragraphs. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. Let's continue on page 20 as we welcome Shabbat with Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diborecha, Yishrianu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shmo echad, v'shem u'tiferet v'mitchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, Shiva ore kumi uri, uri uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi likrat kalai alalai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kalai alalai alalai alalai.
We rise in body or spirit and face the door to welcome in Shabbat.
Boi לשלום, מטרת בעלה, גם משמחה ומסולה, תוך אמוני הסגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, יללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה.
Please be seated unless you are a member of Ali Knoll and family, because we are now going to turn to pages 2 and 3 and light our Shabbat candles. Yeah, that's you. That's you. Yeah, come on up. We have multiple generations of family here tonight, and we're so excited to welcome everyone to help us bring in Shabbat. Everyone's invited. Come on up. Hi.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have multiple generations here celebrating with us. We continue on page 29. Let's read together at the top of the page. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself, and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless, as we rise in body or spirit for Baruch on page 28.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, lai lai, yai lai lai lai. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai.
On page 30, we join together in Ma'ariv Aravim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim, bechochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech vechoshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil bein yom uvein layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim, page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Together, don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai, Adonai, Echad.
Please be seated as we read together on page 37. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. And the words of Mi Chamocha are even more significant for us during this Passover holiday as we retell and reenact this ancient story of moving from slavery to freedom. Page 40.
Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehi Lord, or save Adon Haim Loch Leolam Va'ed.
We again turn to your service handout to pray to God to send us shelter and peace.
Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
Page 45 back in our prayer book. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. As we continue with our Amidah, just a note that with Passover holiday, we are now officially in springtime according to our liturgy. And so in the Givurot, we will be switching from Mashiv HaRuach uMorid HaGashem, which thanks God for the wind and the rain, to Morid HaTal, which acknowledges God as the bringer on of dew in its season. So we rise in body or spirit, and continue with our Amidah, which begins on page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftach uviagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Rikonei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Havot V'imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatah, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umechayim emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. We read together at the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 57.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael. Urtefilatam ve'ahava tikaber. Urtefilatam ve'ahava tikaber. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael. U'tehi ratzon tamid avchad Yisrael Hamecha. U'tehi ratzon tamid avchad Yisrael Hamecha. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai she'otecha levadecha v'yiranavo. We take a moment of silence now for the prayers of our hearts.
Page 62.
Oh, say shalom, shalom b'bramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'yakol Yisrael v'yimeru amen. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'yakol Yisrael amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom shalom aleinu ve'ol kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ve'ol kol Yisrael
On page 253, we think about our world, which is in desperate need of healing, and those in our own lives and our own community who could use some healing prayers as well, whether it be healing of the body, mind, or spirit. This Shabbat, our congregation is praying for Michelle Alexander, Carol Babcock, Vera Benjamin, Jim Brady, Rita Brady, Pauline Cherwin, Susan Derby, Helene Edwards, Muriel Fields, Beverly Fruit, Mary Hartman, Marianne Hooper, Lynn Israel, Deborah Kay, Robert Kay, Marilyn Levinson, Jonathan Luchow, Lori Malamud, William Newman, David Osofsky, Laura Osofsky, Mark Pendergraft, Sarah Penshaw, Buddy Pollock, Jean Posen, Sean Quinlan, Joyce Racklin, Ron Rappaport, Sandra Resnikoff, Devorah Bat-Rachel, Lanny Rothstein, Lois Rosenthal, Kevin Rutherford, Stephanie Shabilia, Sid Siegel, Ruthie Silver, Nicholas Sobek, Jane Terry, Judy Van Gorder, Mark Weig, Lee Wagman, Barbie Young. And on this Passover, we also think about all those who are still enslaved, whether it be physically or enslaved by the prejudice and fear that we have been working through as Jewish people since the Passover story until today. If you have names of those you would like to share who are in need of healing, please do so as I look around the room. Go ahead.
Charles Stellan, Don McKinney, John Mitchell, Sam Zuka, Brandon Dorothy Weiss, Susan Popio, Larry Green, Mary Lou Boya, Ray Halper.
Thanks. Go ahead. Thank you. Sheila. Thank you. Bob. Go ahead, Bob. Yeah. Thank you. For those names we heard aloud and those around our world, we continue with our prayer for healing, Misha Berach.
Misheberach avotenu mekor habracha ve'imortenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So this week, many of us at our Seders at home opened the door for Elijah. And in our Haggadah, in the Seder story, Elijah is kind of this mystical character who we say visits every Seder and takes all the wine that we have poured into his cup and brings it to those who cannot have wine at their own Seders. And so he takes on this kind of mystical folktale element. But I was thinking about Elijah this week, and he actually was a historical figure, and often we kind of just see him as part of a Passover story and not as a really influential prophet in Jewish life. And so I figured tonight, as it is Shabbat Passover, I'll share a little bit more about Elijah and who he actually was, as well as a story that can help us think about our choices and how we live. So Elijah lived in the 9th century BCE, and according to scholars, he is a prophet who is ranked almost as high as Moses. He was a very special and influential prophet. He was someone who helped save our religion from kind of being absorbed into all the religions around it, and really preached and taught monotheism. His name, Elijah, means Yahweh, right? Adonai, our God, is my God. And so his name even holds this idea that our God is one, and our God is the one God who we should be praying to. He is in the book of 1 Kings and 2 Kings in our Torah, if you want to read more about him. And his main focus as a prophet was that there was no reality except the God of Israel. So he really, it says, stressed monotheism with a previously unprecedented emphasis. So as we were Israelites living amongst those who worshiped nature, Elijah helped us to kind of say, wait a second, the gods of nature, the gods that you see all around you are not our God. Our God is the one God, so keep your faith in that God, even though it seems like no one around you is still doing that. And then he evolved into not only a voice for monotheism, but also a voice for morality and faith. He stressed the power of individual faith, which I think is hard for some of us and has been hard for us in general as we see all the peoples around us. But one of his deepest prophetic experiences takes place when he made a pilgrimage to a place called Horeb, where he learns that as he has been teaching all this time, God is not in nature. God is not the big storm or the lightning or the earthquake. Nature, though it is powerful and beautiful around us, is still not a great way to experience God, because God is within each of us, and God is invisible, as we know. God is, as our people say, that still small voice within us, that revelation that speaks to us as individuals and as people. And so we don't not only have just one God for ourselves as a people, but that one God is here for us. It is that voice within us that helps us to keep our own faith. And later, the theme of the later prophets was that morality has to be at the heart of everything we do. We have to be good people and make good choices and do the right thing. So Elijah was an early teacher of that as well to our people, who upheld the unity of law and religion. So he said, religion, faith, it's not kind of that bigness that you see around you, it's that stillness within you, which is powerful and a revolutionary idea that he helped to champion. And even today, Elijah is still a beacon of faith and morality. As I mentioned at our Seders, he reminds us that there are still hungry people out there. There are people who cannot afford to have their own Seders or who are missing part of the religious experience. And it is our job to stay on the lookout for those, as symbolized by the wine that we pour into his cup. So Passover, as this reminder of being a free people, right? We're no longer slaves. We've been brought out of Egypt in this beautiful and powerful exodus. So now the question is, what do we do with that freedom? And Elijah says, make good choices and listen to that voice inside. And there's a story that I love that I'm going to share with you also about Elijah, who helped to teach and champion these values to those who needed them, even if they didn't know that that's what they were looking for. So the story is called Elijah's Gifts. There was once a man who lived a life of kindness and generosity. He looked upon every bit of his fortune as a gift from God. and shared it with all who were in need. So good was his life that when he died, it was decreed in heaven that each of his 3 sons should receive the one wish of his heart as a reward for their father's kindness. Elijah the prophet was dispatched to offer each of the brothers his wish. Elijah first approached the eldest brother and offered him any wish of his heart. The young man didn't hesitate even for a moment before he answered, "What I want most is wealth and power and respect. I want to be the most important man in all the land." "Very well," replied Elijah, "it is done." Upon arriving home, the eldest brother found an old boot on his doorstep. As he was about to throw the boot away, he saw that it was filled with gold coins. He took the boot into his tiny home, and he spilled out the coins on his bed. As he began to celebrate his good fortune, he saw that when he put the boot down, it filled again with gold coins. So he spilled out the contents again, and again it filled up with coins. And so it was until he became the wealthiest man in the land. He built a great mansion, and he purchased many farms. The people of the town came to him for advice, and soon he was elected mayor. He was honored as the most important man in the land, just as he wished he would be. Elijah then approached the second brother and offered him any wish of his heart. The second brother reflected for a moment, and then he answered, "I've always sought wisdom and understanding and knowledge. I've always wanted to know the answers to all of life's great questions. That is my wish. Teach me the answers, the secrets to all of the world's questions. I wish to be the wisest, most learned man in all the land." "Very well," replied Elijah, "it is done." Upon arriving home, the second brother found a package wrapped in plain paper and tied in twine. He brought the package into his home, and he unwrapped it. Inside, he found an old book that was bound in leather. He began to read the book and discovered within it all the answers to all the questions he had ever asked. And any time he arrived at a new question, he found a new chapter in the book that answered the question. Soon, he was the wisest, most learned man in the land, just as he wished he would be. Finally, Elijah went to the home of the youngest brother. The brother welcomed him warmly, invited him into his home, and prepared him a cup of tea. Elijah offered the youngest brother any wish of his heart. The young man shook his head, and he thought for a long time. At last he replied, "I really have enough. There is nothing I need. I have no wish except to be happy." "Very well," replied Elijah, "it is done." "What is done?" asked the young man. "What did I wish for?" That evening, as he sat down to his supper, there was a knock at the youngest brother's door, and there stood an old man. "Dear sir," he said, "I'm sorry to bother you. We are travelers. Our wagon has broken its wheel. It will certainly take some time to repair. May we stay a while in your barn until the wagon can be fixed?" "It's too cold to stay in the barn. Come into my home. You must be hungry. Sit at my table and share my supper. Tomorrow we will see about fixing your broken wheel. But tonight you'll stay here. How many are you?" "Just 2, my granddaughter and I." Just then, a beautiful young woman emerged from the wagon. That night, the grandfather and granddaughter shared supper with the youngest brother. After the meal, they sipped tea. The grandfather recited stories of his many travels. The youngest brother spoke of his good and generous father. The granddaughter recounted stories from all the books she had read. Soon, the youngest brother felt close to the granddaughter, and she felt close to him. The next day, the youngest brother set about repairing the broken wheel, but he left one piece unfinished, so the old man and the granddaughter would have to spend another evening in his home. They shared another supper and another evening of stories, and again the next day he almost completed the job, but he just left one task undone. Soon enough, the youngest brother had fallen in love with the stranger's granddaughter. When the wagon was finally repaired, the young man begged the grandfather to stay and asked permission to marry the granddaughter. The grandfather recognized what a fine person the young man was and joyfully consented. Soon the youngest brother was the happiest man in the land, just as he had wished to be. All 3 brothers received their wishes, but did they use them the way their father had taught them? The father was kind, generous, and good. He recognized that his fortune was a gift of God, and he graciously shared all that he had. Would his sons use their gifts in the same way? Elijah the prophet was dispatched to find out. He came to the eldest brother, and he was disguised as a poor beggar. "Please, sir," begged Elijah, "a few pennies for bread. That's all I ask. It is said that you are the wealthiest and most important man in all the land. God has blessed you so very much. Would you please spare a few pennies for bread?" The brother looked at the beggar in disgust. "Get away from me," he commanded. "I owe nothing to worthless creatures like you. Go and make your own way in the world. I worked hard for my fortune. Go find your own." At that, Elijah removed his disguise. "You worked hard for your fortune?" he asked. "It wasn't your hard work that earned this fortune, but your father's kindness and generosity. He never failed to share his good fortune. He fed every beggar who ever came to his door. But you have not learned his kindness. You don't understand that wealth is a gift to be shared, and therefore your fortune will soon be lost." The eldest brother ran to find his magic boot. As always, it was filled with gold coins. And so he scoffed at Elijah's words. "You can't take my fortune." But when he emptied the coins from the boot, it did not fill up again. Soon his foolish selfishness caught up with him, and he lost everything. Those who had respected him so highly when he was wealthy turned their backs on him, and he returned to the way he had been. Then, disguised as a poor student, Elijah visited the second brother. "Please, sir," he said, "teach me. It is said that you are the wisest and most learned man in all the land. God has blessed you with such knowledge. Could you spare a few moments to teach a poor student who seeks only the truth?" Like his eldest brother, the second brother looked away in disgust and told him to get away. "Can't you see," he said, "that I have no time for fools like you? I worked hard to earn wisdom." At that, Elijah removed his disguise. "You worked hard to earn wisdom?" he asked. "What exactly do you know? Your father shared his wisdom generously, and he never failed to share his time. He always taught anyone who came to him seeking understanding. But you never learned the lessons of his kindness. You never learned that wisdom is a gift to be shared. Therefore, your learning will soon be lost." The second brother, like his oldest one, scoffed at Elijah's words. "How can my learning be lost?" But just to make sure, he found his magic book, and when he saw it, he was shocked to discover that its pages were blank. Soon his foolishness caught up with him, and he forgot all he had learned and returned to being as he had been. Finally, Elijah visited the youngest brother disguised as a traveler. Having met the selfishness and foolishness of the first brothers, he was worried about what he'd find. He knocked at the youngest brother's door one night as the family was sitting down to supper. "Dear sir," said Elijah, "I'm sorry to bother you. I am a traveler. My wagon is broken, and it will take some time to repair. May I trouble you by staying a while in your barn until the wagon can be fixed?" "No," replied the brother. Elijah feared that his concerns were justified. But the brother continued, "Not in the barn. Come on in to our home. You must be hungry. Sit with us at our table and share our supper. Tomorrow we will see about fixing your broken wagon, but tonight you'll stay here." The youngest brother invited Elijah into his home and sat him at the table beside his wife and her grandfather. Before the meal, the youngest brother covered his head and recited a prayer. "Let us thank God for all the gifts that are ours, for the bread we eat, for the love we share, for this warm home, and for our guest who has come here tonight to share our meal. For all the happiness that God has brought us, blessed is God who brings bread from the earth." At that, Elijah removed his disguise. "You have learned the lessons that your father taught. All of his kindness, his wisdom, and his generosity are yours. Therefore, it has been decreed that all the gifts your brothers wasted shall also be yours. The fortune of your eldest brother and the learning of your second brother, and your gifts shall be doubled and doubled again." And so they were. The brother lived a long life with his wife, who brought him happiness, and with their many children, and each child was given the gifts of kindness, generosity, and goodness. This Passover, may we continue to be inspired by Elijah's example, to use our freedom wisely and make good choices, and always remember that the gifts we have are to be shared. We continue now with Aleinu in the middle of page 282. Please rise in body or spirit.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו כהמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Please be seated. We're on page 293. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. During the period of Shloshim, the month following death, we remember Clifford Blate, the cousin of Brian Alterman, Dr. Donald Cohen, father of Joanne Cohen and Deborah Abram, Patricia Deem, mother of Bill Deem, Louise Karp Esrig, mother of Adele Stewart, Larry C. Heckler, father of Jody Klein, and Francis Young. And at the period of Yortzeit, the anniversary of death, we remember Dylan Ash Huxhold, Antonio Ocello, Sarah Asher Bloomfield, Marie Grom Bresson, David Cooperman, Blanche Krieger, Isidore Crystal, David Eisen, Judge Hugh S. Glickstein, Murray Golding, Sidney Robert Golding, Dr. Jacob Green, Sylvia Greenhut, Morton R. Hirschberg, Edna Horowitz, Max Jaffe, Rhea Miller Jarchower, Solon Klepper, Ida Kreinberg, Rita Ann Kurland, Reuben Moss, Louis Newman, Joe Newman, Herman David Schiff, Ida Sharman, Morton Silverstein, Barbara Cameron Simmons, Elizabeth Turk, Paul Weiss, Jean Witten, Sam Witten. If you have a name you'd like to share aloud this evening of someone you're remembering, please do so as I look around the room. Those names we heard aloud and those who are always in our hearts, we turn to page 294 and rise in body or spirit for Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal ve'yitkadash shemeh rabbah, be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemeh rabbah mivarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yithaleh, v'yithalal, shemeh d'kudashah, barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be for a blessing. Please be seated as we invite up Jonathan Richmond, a member of our board, for some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Jonathan Richmond. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, we welcome you to Congregation Ahavat Chesed and wish you a Chag Pesach Sameach, a happy and healthy Passover holiday. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Rabbi Glasser will lead Torah study, followed by Shabbat morning minyan with Rabbi and Cantor at 10:30 a.m. Temple events this week are It's All About the Stitch Group, meeting at Monday at 1 p.m., Wisdom, led by Susie Becker, on Tuesday morning at 10:30 a.m., and our Passover Yisker service Wednesday at 10 a.m., which will be in the sanctuary and live streamed. You can check out Mishkan Tefillah Festival prayer books for this service at the front desk until 5 p.m. on Tuesday. Our oneg tonight will be in the front vestibule. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Jonathan. We turn to page 5 for Kiddush and Motzi. And I would love if my friend Olivia would come up and help us lead Kiddush and Motzi. Fantastic.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'yiratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila v'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziyah v'yitzrayim ki banu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uveratzon hinchatanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Thank you for holding our cup. She has declined the juice, so. I will take it. Olivia, can we have challah on Passover? Well, what do you think is under here? What's that? Yeah, matzah. There you go. Wait, hold on. Let's go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Now you can take that back to your family. Thank you, Olivia, for your We're going to conclude back in our service handout with Adirhu.
Adirhu, Adirhu, Yivne Beito Bekaro, Bimheira, Bimheira, Bimheinu Bekaro, El B'nai, B'nai Bekar Bekaro. God of might, God of right, we give all glory, thine all praise in these days, as in ages hoary. When we hear year by year, freedom's wondrous story.
Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.